There are so many things that we have missed this year. The list is too long to name. But there was one event that I really feel the loss of, because it is so symbolic and usually so much fun. That was, of course, the Olympics. The Summer Olympics, which would have been held in Tokyo this year. It was one of the last major events to be canceled because of the symbolism and the hope that it brings to so many. Not to mention the unbelievable amount of work, planning, and preparation that goes into it, and the fact that for so many athletes who might have competed this summer, this may well have been their one shot. I love the Parade of Nations at the opening ceremony. The roll call of each entering country's fastest and strongest, marching with such pride and anticipation under their country's flag and their chosen standard bearer leading the way. It starts as a trickle, and then the stadium floor fills with smiling, waving, cheering athletes, kids of all ages who are ready to play. Even though many, many of them know they have absolutely no chance of taking home a medal, for them it is the experience of a lifetime. I know that for a personal fact, because 4 years ago, in 2016 at the Summer Olympics, I had the incredible privilege of watching those opening ceremonies in Montana with my mother-in-law, Ellen, who was recalling her time as an athlete in the 1968 Olympics on the American luge team. And sitting with her amidst her Olympic memorabilia was an experience I will never forget. It changed her life and shaped it in marvelous ways she could never at the time have imagined. But she loved and adored that feeling of pride in her country, walking in behind the flag bearer to take her place in history. When everyone is assembled, the proper hush falls over the reverent throng, and then the Olympic torch makes its way through the stadium on the final leg of its very long relay journey, and it is properly lit with incredible fanfare. And the cry goes out, "Let the games begin." For 16 days, the torch burns while the race for the gold begins. Going for the gold. I've been thinking a lot about that lately. Of course, in Olympic terms and in general use, it means being the best, being the fastest, being the strongest. But it can also be a guide for how we live and how we, by example, hope to encourage others to live. We have a long tradition of pageantry and gold in Jewish life. We used to have quite an opening ceremony ourselves, especially on Yom Kippur. There's eyewitness testimony of a Roman consul, Marcus, who served in Jerusalem during the time of the Second Temple. He described the procession that would make its way to the Temple Mount. First to go before the high priest would be all those who were of the seed of the kings of Israel, and a herald would go before them crying, "Give honor to the house of David." After them would come the house of Levi, and a herald crying, "Give honor to the house of Levi." There were 36,000 of them, and all the prefects wore clothing of silk, and the priests, of whom there were 24,000, wore clothing of white silk. And after them came the singers, and after them the instrumentalists, and the trumpeters, and the guards of the gate, the incense makers, the curtain makers, the watchmen, and the treasurers. A class, we're not sure who these were, called chartophylax, then all the working men who worked in the sanctuary, then the 70 Sanhedrin, the elders and the judges, then 100 priests with silver rods in their hands to clear the way, and then came the high priest, and after him all the elders of the priesthood, 2 by 2, and the heads of the academies stood at vantage points and cried, Lord High Priest, may you come in peace. Pray to our Maker to grant us long life, that we may engage in his Torah. What a glittering spectacle it must have been. Thank you, Rabbi Sachs, for reminding me what the ancient pageant and opening ceremony was like. There was plenty of gold in the second temple, though less than in the first, Solomon's temple. Billions of dollars worth of gold in today's money. As conquest after conquest befell us, our worship spaces have had less and less of that precious yellow metal. We go more for silver and copper, sort of Jerusalem stone hues these days. But the notion of going for the gold, of being our best selves, is absolutely center stage in Jewish teaching. I started thinking about going for the gold when I learned the story of the Buddha in the Wat Tiamat temple in Bangkok. This beautiful Buddha was built in the 1300s, and to protect it, it was encased in plaster and shards of beautiful colored glass. It was quite a sight to behold, but over the centuries it was moved and stored, boxed up and brought out, and during one of its many removals and replacements, it was cracked. Horror ensued when the plaster and beautiful broken glass gave way. But almost immediately, horror gave way to celebration, for it was discovered that this beautiful Buddha was made actually of 5.5 tons of pure gold. It is the largest pure gold Buddha in the world, but only under stress and in a time of crisis did it reveal its true self. So much feels tarnished and cracked and broken right now, to put it mildly. Structures are collapsing and deep fissures are being exposed. But as difficult as it is to find words for this moment, I want to be among those who may be remembered one day, if that is my blessing, as someone who tried to envision a new dawn out of this time of darkness. None of us knows what the future will bring. It can be what we make of it, to a great extent. Maybe this moment in our evolution as a people and a nation and a planet is a kind of a crucible, a smelting and purifying period, when the shame and dross that is built into the tapestry and history of this country's history is confronted, is reckoned with, and is atoned for. On this Yom Kippur, it would seem only fitting, right? We confess collectively beautiful words that are in our machzor, but do we really mean them? Do we say them with the sense of that's for someone else to atone for? Or do we take our place, however small we may feel it to be, and say we can do better? We can go for the gold that is within all of us. A favorite expression of my mom's when we were growing up was to describe us, or whatever the situation was, as being good as gold. Well, our Torah makes no bones about exactly what that means. Yes, we loved shiny objects, and we do endeavor to beautify our mitzvot. But the tradition teaches us that to go for the gold, to be good as gold, means putting someone less fortunate ahead of yourself. It means giving, it means sharing, it means cultivating kindness and using the immense power we're given for easing the path, trying something, anything, to give each other and our children hope that there will be a tomorrow when they can take a deep breath and drink a clean glass of water. That's not me saying anything other than what is absolutely in our teaching. And what our teaching also tells us is what going for the gold is not. Going for the gold doesn't mean being mean. It doesn't mean name-calling or race-baiting or threatening violence or willfully destroying the environment or ridiculing people who are sick or despondent or promising to overturn everything and anything because we don't get exactly what we want. It's not just Jewish tradition that warns us about worshiping gold. It's such a common story. I wonder if we even think of it when we hear the Midas touch. I know that's been used for advertising, and it is a powerful suggestion that we might wish for everything we touch, like the ancient mythical Phrygian king Midas, for everything we touch to turn to gold. Midas had his wish answered. The god Dionysus granted him that request, though he warned him about it in advance. He said, "Are you sure, Midas?" And Midas was absolutely sure, because his avarice and greed were such that he figured touching things and turning them alchemically, magically into gold was exactly what the doctor would have ordered. And at first it was wonderful. But by his first breakfast, when the grape he touched and the rose he reached to smell turned into gold, he realized what a mistake he had made. And when his beloved daughter came in, and he reached for her in his desperation and sorrow and fear, and she turned to a statue of gold, Midas's lesson was learned. I've heard the story told a couple of ways, but the way I like it is that Dionysus took pity on Midas and reversed the curse back into a blessing. And Midas no longer had everything he touched turn to gold. Instead, he turned his life around, and as one version of the story goes, gave almost all of his vast fortune away to those who needed it. That's going for the gold within. The Jewish people has not needed or even been able to have the pomp and pageantry of our ancient Yom Kippurs, not for 2 millennia. We read about it today so that we could travel back in time for a while, to remember what was and to see what still is. Thank God we found a way to find worth in this tradition that isn't just spectacle and puffery. There is something so deep and lasting and pure and inestimably valuable about this way of living and loving. And it can and it will lift us up. I have to believe that. We have to believe in that. No, we did not have the Parade of Nations this year, and the Olympic torch never got lit. But we can all still and must go for the gold in our own way. The gold of morality, of ethics, virtue, equality, forgiveness, chesed, loving kindness, mercy, and care. We have the power, the metal, to imbue each moment and each creation with preciousness and rarity, for each person and creation is unique and will never come again. If we can do that, if we can mine gold out of the nuggets of life, then as a people and as a nation and as a human race, we may yet ascend the podium with pride and hope in a shining and glorious and redemptive tomorrow that please, please, may we merit yet to see. May your Yom Kippur be golden and all of your days ahead shine with health and shalom. Amen.